Welcome to Inside Amusements, your number one podcast about yesterday, today, and tomorrow's amusements. With your hosts, Brian, Chris, and Eric. I'm Joe, the producer, and this is The Beat Goes On. And now, here's Chris.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are starting this episode off with some news. So kicking it off, it is almost that time of year where parks will start to announce their new attractions for 2023. We've had a couple come up already with Worlds of Fun in Missouri and Dollywood. So they are about to announce their rides or whatever attractions they're going to bring to the park next season very soon. So be on the lookout for a special announcement episode coming up very soon. Eric?
Yeah, so Chris, super exciting. We're looking forward to that episode. In other news, we've got a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer drummer, Max Weinberg, is going to bring his band to the great state of New York, their state fair. So that's awesome. One of the greatest drummers, he's going to bring his band. Weinberg is best known for playing for Bruce Springsteen. He was the band leader for Conan O'Brien. That's actually going to happen on Monday, August 29th at the Chevy Court Stage. So if you're up in New York on that day, or if you just want to go, that's going to be an amazing show. I hear that they're actually going to make their set list based on what the fans want to hear. So that's going to be pretty awesome. At this point, that's all for this news around the carousel.
Chris, let me ask you a question. What do you think is the most important instrument in a band?
I'm going to have to guess the guitar. Wait. No, the lead singer? No, it's the drums, duh.
Yes. Absolutely. And so today, the three of us, while Brian is on vacation at Carowinds, three of us are going to be discussing our love of drumming. That's right. The three of us are drummers. So we thought, why not have an episode about drumming?
Yeah, we all love drumming. I think, kicking it off, when I was a little kid, my parents told me, I used to bring out all the pots and pans, and I would just, take sticks from the backyard and just play on them. And then when I was in 5th grade, we had to pick between band, orchestra, and choir. And I picked percussion. And it was kind of a love at first sight. I got, a little kit. And I started learning, how to play. And I think when I got home the first day after practice, I started just picking things up. I was playing along to albums that my father had. And it was just like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I could go on with that story. There's more to it. I can talk about it later. But, that was kind of my first memory of drumming, is hearing my parents say, you brought out all those things and we're just beating them up. And now here's your opportunity to actually play. So, yeah, I think that was probably my first memory. Chris, what about you, man?
I'm kind of in the same boat. When I was younger, a lot younger, I would also take out the pots and pans and, plastic spoons or whatever and start banging on those to annoy my parents to death. And then, quickly after that, as soon as I got a little older, I'm, always constantly, all my teachers in school said he's always tapping on his desk, always, banging his desk with his hands and tapping his feet all the time. So we ended up, getting me a practice pad to, practice on until I got my first kit, which, was maybe around when I was, 13 or so. But yeah, I mean, it's just the pots and the pans just is the earliest memory that I have of knowing that, I can keep a beat, this is fun. So.
And that's awesome. I think we all three have the same story. and it's probably probably the same for most drummers, I would imagine. You typically start out with the pots and pans and get to a point where you realize, that you are a drummer, once you know exactly what that is. But same for me. I was probably sometime, in fact, I know I was third grade. So I would have been, 8 or 9 years old many years ago, banging on the drum or banging on the desks at school during class as if it was a drum, not really even thinking that I was playing drums. I just couldn't sit still. I just was always tapping something, rhythmically. And same deal. Basically, the teacher, I totally remember the teacher, reaching out to my parents and saying, he's making a lot of noise on his desk. I think he needs drums. And unfortunately, it would be another, 3 or 4 years before I would actually get a drum set. Never joined anything in school, never played drums in school, marching line or drum line or anything like that. I played trombone, upright bass, and violin, but I never played drums in school. I don't know why. Maybe because I didn't want to play that style of music. I'm sure it was probably because, I wanted to play, I wanted to be a rock star. I didn't want to play any of that school marching band stuff. So.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as well. I never was in marching band in high school, anything like that, junior high. Never was in, orchestra, anything like that. It was strictly, I want to play rock and roll and I want to be behind the kit.
Yeah.
Yep.
The first person that ever said to my parents, hey, this kid's a drummer, was that band director that I had. And funny enough, he was actually my mom's band director when she was growing up through high school. And he just he saw what I was doing on the practice pad and he just was like, how did you learn how to do that? I think I actually walked in one day to class and I brought it out and we weren't supposed to have it out, but I was like, screw it. I want to play this. I don't want to play the xylophone. And I started playing a buzz roll and he said, well, how do you know how to do that? And I said, I don't know. I just figured it out last night. And he called my mom that day and he said, I'm going to give this guy lessons. And so he was one of my biggest mentors. I took private lessons from him for years. He taught me everything that I needed to know. But yeah, we've got a
natural
lot of
talent.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, maybe a little bit, but a lot of practice too. But you start out and you just kind of figure something out and then somebody picks up on that and you're like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, I can tell you. I mean, it came naturally for me, and I'm sure it typically does for all drummers. I haven't met a drummer that said, I just wanted to learn how to play drums. It usually started with the fact that they already kind of knew how to play to some degree, So I think for, at least for drums, I think the most part it comes naturally.
Yeah, and Joe, remind me if I'm correct or not. Well, you and I have both not had lessons. Is that correct?
That's right. I cannot read sheet music for drums. Never had any instruction. Well, with the exception of I had a guy that when I was younger, there was an older kid in our neighborhood that, quite frankly, had more money than we did. So this guy had a nice set of drums and his parents got him, these drums and he would play in his bedroom. And I would ride my bike by and stop right in front of his house and just listen to him play. And at some point he noticed me and he started talking to me and he was like, hey man, have you thought about playing drums? I'm like, yeah. So he actually brought me up to his room, let me sit down. He was showing me a couple things. And I remember the first, music that he introduced me to that he was playing along with was Rush, the great Neil Peart. And I think it was the album Power Windows, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, other than, a couple guys older than me, maybe showing me a couple things here and there and never had any professional instruction.
Yeah, I can't read sheet music as well. If you put that in front of me, I'm like, what are you trying to do? I just learned by listening to a song and just mimicking it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as well. There was a guy actually when my parents got divorced. My mom was seeing somebody who played the drums, and I kind of he had his drums at his house all the time, so I'd be able to get behind the kit and just play away for the, before I had my own kit. And I remember the first song that I got to learn, and kind of the very first things that I learned from any other music, like from other bands, was U2's Sunday Bloody Sunday. So that was my first experience of learning music there.
Big drums on that one, man. The opening of that song, those open hats, and just, it's all in your face.
Yep.
I should probably mention, my dad was in bands for years. I mean, he started out as a kid playing in bands. So I had a great deal of like watching my dad play with his band, and, us always going over, during rehearsals and stuff like that. And then whenever they were gigging out. So, definitely had my fair share of like, seeing other drummers and just being mesmerized by watching these guys play. But Eric, little different story for you, right?
Yeah, a little different. I grew up, I did the whole concert band thing. I did the marching band. I did drumline. And that was such a great experience for me. I mean, you learn how to, do so many different things. You learn different styles. You learn how to play with people. You learn when to play loud. You learn when to play quiet. And it was a great experience. I made a lot of great friends. I still talk to them, here and there. But yeah, like, one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys is, what would be your advice to any young musician? If they're just starting out, Chris, what do you think? Like,
practice for sure is just constant, constant practice.
Mm-hmm.
You can only get as good as you're willing to be. So definitely practice, hours and hours of practice.
Yeah, man. When I got my first drum kit, a mixed kit, we didn't have a lot of money. My mom did the best she could. And it was a mixed kit, different colors. I didn't care. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure my right cymbal was cracked. Super tarnished on the cymbals. They were ugly. But man, it was the most amazing thing ever. Coming home and seeing these drums in my bedroom. And, they allowed me to play. My mom allowed me to play drums pretty much anytime I wanted to. So for me, it was all about playing along with some of my favorite bands and favorite music. That's how I learned. I was into some of the heavier stuff then. So, definitely like some of the Metallica or whatever, like just anything and everything. Stuff that I like. Playing along with the band was like as if you're in the band. It's the greatest thing ever. Even to this day, I'll play along with cover music or with other bands, or even like just backing tracks now, just feeling like you're playing with the band. So
I agree with you. Practice, play along to anything and everything. I know you guys, you said you guys can't read sheet music, which is fine. But I would say for any younger musician, learn how to read that stuff, because when you get into playing with groups and you're given a set of sheet music, you're given that piano music, you don't have to sight read that. You don't have to know like every note on that scale, but you can know where you're going. Or at least just kind of know like what the band director is going to ask you to do. But yeah, it all comes down to just practice. We cannot stress that enough.
Yeah. And then kind of going off kind of what Joe was saying, when we didn't have a lot of money growing up as well. So, I just went into the music store, got my first set was probably the cheapest one we could find there. But are the drums not the most expensive instrument to play in a band with? I don't know about anybody else. I play my set hard and heavy, and I go through cymbals like it's my business.
Yeah.
I actually never really had that problem. I definitely played heavy. So I you guys know this, but I'll just say it. I don't have any acoustic sets anymore. I'm now electronic drums. And it's really been great because it allows me to still continue doing what I love. But it's not driving everybody crazy. So, and it's really a great way to play with some backing tracks too. I've got the headphones on. It's all kind of right in my ears, but I never really had that problem. I know a lot of drummers that go through heads like nothing. I probably went through sticks quite a bit. But yeah, never had an issue with going through cymbals.
Yeah, I just remember going to Sam Ash and buying the huge bundle of sticks, as many as I could whenever I got paid from working my first few jobs that I had, just to go buy sticks for playing.
You can never have too many sticks. And of course you gotta have the stick bag.
Mm-hmm.
Put one on the hi-hats, put one on the floor tom, plenty of sticks right there because, hey, you got to throw some out to the audience too. So
yeah,
talking about gigging out, which, occurred later on in life, but why don't we talk a little bit about that? At what point did you have your first band where you were the drummer? Chris.
Well, my first band, we covered music. We were, I want to say, sophomores in high school. And there was a little tiny venue in a park in the city I grew up in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, where we covered songs. Most of them were like Nirvana, that kind of stuff. And we went through a couple different names. A few days before the show, we were the Dead Dandelions. Not sure where that came from. And then
that's so grunge right
that's
there. That
awesome. That's a great name.
And then
that's early 90s for sure, right?
It gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
And then it went to Cheez-It. Not sure where that is.
Okay.
But then the day of the show, and all of our parents are there and everything. And here you have these 16-year-old kids, and our lead singer is, "Hey everybody, we're Pelvic Thrust." So
that's amazing.
So I mean, we covered all those kind of like late 90s, early 2000s kind of radio rock music.
Nice.
So it was fun. I loved it. We all colored our hair different colors and fake tattoos on, things like that.
Boy, I could tell you some of the names that I had. I mean, early on, if I had to think about this, my first band that I started was really out of me playing drums in my bedroom and being loud enough in the neighborhood that a couple kids that also had instruments were thinking, man, there's a drummer in our street. And it started with a bass player, I remember. And he came down and he said, "Hey, I play bass." And he was about my age. And I was like, great. So he came down and plugged up. And then at that point, I moved everything into the garage, right? Because, you got to be a garage band first. And we opened up the garage door and it's just bass and drums, just jamming. Have no idea what we're doing, just playing. It's loud. And then at some point, a guitar shows up, right? There's another kid in the neighborhood or somebody said, "Hey, there's a drummer and a bass player." And the guy's like, "Well, I know a guitar player." So he comes, so literally this guy comes, this kid comes to my house with a guitar and says, "I hear you guys got a thing going here," and it kind of started there. But I mean, I must have been like 13 or 14. I remember coming up with names. I remember like drawing up, our band logo and printing it up. And I remember like printing it on a piece of paper and taping it to my bass drum head, right? Like, that's what bands do. They have their logo on their bass drum head. So, man, some names I had. So Caustic Rage sticks out as one of probably the earliest ones. Fatal Cry was one. These are all kind of metal bands. Dragon's Kiss, which happened a little later on in life. That was probably late 80s, early 90s.
It's a great name, by the way. Dragons. I might steal
Dragon's Kiss. Yeah, we were like a prog metal, very intricate. I mean, one of our originals had 8 guitar solos in it. I played a 12-piece Ludwig USA with drums and cymbals all around me, hair down to here. A lot of double bass technique, a lot of influences of Queensryche and maybe some early Dream Theater possibly, and like Savatage and Judas Priest. But that's kind of like, that's when I was really probably in the top of my game in terms of playing drums. I played every day for hours. That's all I ever wanted to do, was be a drummer at that point.
Yep. Same here. I was just thinking about this as you were talking, and let's just say I royally pissed my mom off with this. One night, me and my friends that, we're thinking about starting a band before we were actually starting our very first band. I was like, you know what? I want to put a stage in my basement. So we had a closet there that ran the whole length of one side of the basement. I tore down the entire closet, used all the wood from that and built a stage in my basement.
Nice.
In the middle of the night, my mom's sleeping. She has no idea we're hammering away, me and my friend building this thing, and she walks down, and it was not pretty.
Man, the things we will do, the ideas that we have.
Yep.
Nothing will stop us.
Yep. I'll tell you my best gig. So even though I'm a drummer and I've played, in various venues, going up through high school, I was actually in a little garage band like Joe was. And I was actually the bass guitar and lead singer. Now I can't sing. So that was interesting. But the best gig that I think I ever had as a drummer was at Music Hall in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we opened for Nick Lachey.
98 Degrees.
98 Degrees, various, talk shows, hosting, reality shows. I mean, and also owns a couple restaurants and bars here in Cincinnati too. And I'll never forget when we ended our set, I was walking off the stage, and he was just like so cool. Just shook my hand and was like, "Hey man, great set. Thank you so much." And I was just blown away by that. It was like the coolest experience I've ever had as a drummer, and being in such a venue with all that history and that magnitude. You're like, that's really cool. Now, that being said, I've also played in other smaller venues with my friends, and there's also something to say about that. You get all the girls from high school coming in and seeing you, and you got your crush sitting, right in front stage, and, you might jump off the stage a little bit, but, that stuff happens. So
nice.
Yeah.
Chris, what about you? What's the coolest gig you ever played?
Oh, let's see. We're family friendly on this podcast, so I'm going to keep it very PG, maybe 13. But no. So right after high school, I'm in a band, and you could say that we were like screamo, kind of pop punk kind of stuff. So we got signed to a label, which was a very small label, who wanted to make our very first show a birthday bash for the one and only Ron Jeremy, if anybody knows who that is. So you
If
can
you don't,
imagine.
you can Google it. No, actually, don't Google it.
Yeah, don't Google that.
Mom, I have no idea who he's talking about.
Yeah, don't Google it. And anyway, you can imagine the types of things that were going on at this place, and I did not expect it. But there were tons of people there, and it was just the atmosphere was electric because, everybody loved every band there because, they've been drinking. Doesn't really matter what kind of music's playing. If you're having a good time, you're jamming to any type of song that's on. Mm-hmm. So it was just the atmosphere. I know that it is a weird atmosphere, that's for sure, but it was still fun. That was probably the biggest show that I played.
Man, you guys got me. I played in a lot of bands over the years, and I've definitely played some cool gigs, but I've never played anything like that. When I say I played some cool gigs, they were just like maybe atmosphere, the amount of people, but it could have just been a private gig, Mm-hmm. But I guess for me, looking back years ago, so we used to do the Battle of the Bands. So Bogart's nightclub here in Cincinnati, been around for a long time, still one of the coolest clubs here in Cincinnati. Every year they would put on the Battle of Bands, and you would enter and get into it. Anyway, so as Dragon's Kiss at that time, we got into the Battle of the Bands. So I would say for me, that was probably my most favorite gig because it was my first time playing on such a professional stage, professional sound, in-house, front of house guy running sound, lights. I was shaking, man. I was just mesmerized. And I remember at the time my older brother was in a band and they were doing pretty well. They were actually doing really well. They had recorded an album at that time. Anyways, him and his band, showed up to watch us and support us. And I just remember thinking like, man, my brother and his band and, the drummer of his band, who I always looked up to because I thought he was amazing. Here they are now watching us up on stage. So, yeah. And this was forever ago. This is, geez, I mean, I was in my early 20s and I'm almost 50 years old. So been a long time ago, but still one of the coolest experiences as a drummer up on a cool stage for me. It was an awesome gig.
It's funny because like now looking back on it, being in these bands through high school and everything, and you're in a scene, you know other bands that are in your area and you pretty much play all the same shows as them. So growing up here in Columbus, there's the Newport Music Hall, which has been around for a long time as well. I think still going strong. But they also had a Battle of the Bands every year. So we would sign up, and there were other bands here that we would play with, and you may know or have heard of these bands, but there was a band that we grew up playing with called Attack Attack. And there's some guys that we played with that are now in the band called Beartooth. So it was pretty fun growing up and seeing them, make it big. So it's funny to know, like, hey, I know that guy. He's playing in Japan with Slipknot right now, like opening up for them. So it was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
I know both those bands, and I've also been in Newport many times.
Yep. That used to be my second home.
It's a great venue. I mean, really, it is very old. And in fact, if you look up, part of the ceiling is falling down. You're like, really?
So where are you guys at now in terms of playing drums? And then I'll share a little bit about kind of like where I'm at now.
Yeah, I think as I get,
are you still active? Pretty active at this point, or?
I try and keep up with my chops. I got sticks. I got a practice pad. I haven't played an actual set in quite a few years, but where I'm at is now I'm trying to actually like drop all the equipment that I have. So I'm actually trying to go less and do more with what I have. Right? Does that make sense? Like
what kind of equipment? Like, what do you mean? Sorry.
Well, you drop your drum set. You say, well, I'm not going to play a drum set anymore. I'm going to try and do, something with a cajon and a shaker and maybe a tambourine, or, you find these little percussion instruments and you go, what can I do with this? And then you have all that. And then you go, well, what can I get away with? Right? Like maybe I'll drop a tambourine on a certain set, or maybe I'll drop the shaker on a certain set. And that to me is really interesting because it makes you get a little bit more creative with the less that you have. So I think that's also like, as I get older, I'm going, well, that's interesting to me. I still love playing the drums. I'll still, hit the cymbals hard. I'll still, beat those heads. But yeah, nowadays it's more like, what can I do with less?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have a cajon, and I played cajon actually in a band for a few years. And that was the last gig that I had in a band. The last involvement in a band. I was the cajonist, and we booked a lot of gigs. I mean, we were playing 6 to 8 gigs a month. A lot of cool bars in town, very steady bookings, and that evolved into some corporate gigs, as well as weddings and stuff like that. All just sitting on a box drum, a cajon, a 4-piece band. But it's a lot of fun to explore some other things for sure. But what about you, Chris? If you're watching on YouTube, you can see Chris actually has his drum set there right behind him. Looks like some chrome pearls there.
Yep.
You can see the China boys there.
So my set is always in the basement. It's always there for me to play whenever I feel the need to jump behind the kit. I don't play as much as I'd like to, with being an adult and working and life happening, it just doesn't happen as much as I'd like, but it'll be, once every few months I'll jump behind there and, hack away for a little bit. As you can see, that, or if you can't see, there's my set right there. So every few months I'll jump behind there, pop on some tunes and try to keep my skill level to where it was, but definitely not the same as it used to be back when I was just out of high school and all that kind of stuff. That was my peak drumming years, and not the same anymore.
I always tell people, man, like, so once you're a drummer, you're always a drummer. Even if you don't even play drums anymore, you're just always going to be a drummer, because if you're tapping on the steering wheel, if you're hearing drums in your head, I mean, you're a drummer from the day you're born. So I still have like I said, I have the electronic drums. I dumped all my acoustic kits probably 6 years ago. At that point, I had 3 acoustic kits. I mean, I was pretty heavy into it. And, like you said, you get to be like an adult. I have other passions. I do other things, and those things sort of just became priority. And it's okay, because I know that I will still be a drummer, and I can just get right back into it. It's like riding a bike. I haven't played in a while. Every once in a while I'll get it in me, and I'll just kind of sit down and, like you said, I'll play along to a song or something like that. I'll bust out into a sweat, man. I'll hit it hard for about an hour, and I'm just like, I'm in it again. I'm a kid again on drums for the first time, and then I'm done. And that's my workout. And that'll hold me over for a few months. But I feel good of where I'm at right now. It's I don't have to play them every day to still love them.
Yeah. And I will say this, I have my drums here, and then it's just easier for me just because I also try to play guitar as well. So it's just easier for me to sit here while we're at a computer or just doing that, just strumming away at a guitar. And I'm not good at guitar. I try to be, but I never had any lessons or anything on that as well. But it's just an easier thing you can just pick up and take with you anywhere you go. But yeah, Eric, do you play any other instruments other than drums or percussion?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned before, I mean, I can play bass, I can play a little guitar. I kind of know what I'm doing on
little
piano.
Guitar?
A little
That's
guitar.
a ukulele.
A ukulele? Is that what you're saying?
No, not a ukulele. I call it, I can play camp guitar, right? So I can like strum along to the chords, rhythm guitar, really. I can play piano a little bit. I kind of know what I'm doing. If I can read the music, I'm like, okay, I think I know what this is doing, but I can't just like pick something up and be like, okay. Now I will say
there he is showing off his music reading skills.
No.
Just had to throw that in there.
No, trust me. It's like me doing math. I've got to be like, okay, 1 + 1 = 2. Like it takes a while, but I can kind of figure it out. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, I grew up in a very musical family. Always listening to music, always listening to records. We had a piano in our living room growing up. We all, kind of played some instruments. So that I think helped a little bit. But yeah, I can do it. I mean, I don't know. I can do a little bit here and there. What about you, Joe? You already kind of mentioned it early in this episode, but you want to go back to that?
So, I mean, I could play a handful of chords on the guitar. I mean, if you know 3 chords, a 500,000 songs. So
yeah,
that's kind of the extent of it. I do have a ukulele. I can play a ukulele. I mentioned cajon. I can play cajon. I actually really got into the cajon. It's a lot of fun. I love that instrument. I get to a point where I bought like 3 or 4 of them. And a nice cajon is like a nice piece of furniture. Like once you really start getting into it, man, you kind of want to buy like more of them. So they're just fun to play. But yeah, that's probably the extent of it. When I was younger, like I said, I played trombone and upright bass and violin, but haven't played those things in many years.
So who are some of your favorite drummers? Who's inspired you? Your style, what you like to play? Chris, what are you thinking?
So one of them, and we've been sharing videos back and forth in a chat that we have. Is his name is Chris Turner. He plays in a band called Oceans 8 Alaska. There's one. He's very technical and probably the quickest feet I've ever seen on double bass. And being able to play different things with, it amazes me how different he can play 2 different things with 2 different hands and something different on the feet, which is just crazy to me with how fast he can do it. Another one is Matt Greiner. from the band August Burns Red, which is
good.
awesome.
Yeah, good band.
But if you want to kick it old school, those two are some gent and metal core music. But if you're kicking it old school, drummer wise, definitely Neil Peart. And then who did I? Oh, yeah, Dream Theater, Mark Portnoy.
Mike?
Definitely.
Mike Portnoy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, sadly, he's not with Dream Theater anymore. He hasn't been with them in a while, but yeah, he's
It's been like 11 years.
phenomenal. Yeah. Yeah.
New guy's good, though. Really good. What's his name? Mike Polini or something like that.
Oh,
I
the
can't
new guy?
remember his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah.
Drummers?
So for me, I had to think. So, like, in terms of today's music, I'll be honest with you, I don't really listen. I mean, I listen to some new stuff, but I'm as you guys know, I'm a nostalgic man. I listen to the old stuff. I still love the 80s rock and the 80s, big hair music and into the 90s. So I'm kind of like, that's pretty much every day. That's what I'm listening to. So for me, it's going to be the old timers. Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden sticks out as being a favorite. Definitely Neil Peart of Rush. Going into, I would say probably, Carter Buford of Dave Matthews Band. Definitely love that guy. Love his style. I always say the thing about Carter is that I know exactly what he's doing, but I just can't do it. I can do some of it, but he makes it look easy. The guy's phenomenal, but, man, and not many others come to mind.
I will say this real quick before we get to you, Eric, as one just popped in my head, but Danny Carey from Tool. Really good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I do know that guy. And yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal drummer.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of old school, Joe. The guys that come to my mind, influences on the way I play drums. Keith Moon.
Yep.
His style, John Bonham.
Yeah, absolutely. John Bonham.
Great drummer. Yeah. I was going to say Carter Buford too. I have his DVD. I've watched it numerous times, and I'm going to say the same thing that you said, Joe. When you know what somebody's doing, but you can't do it,
yeah,
you're just like, that's impressive.
Yeah, it really is.
Is that the Under the Table and Drumming?
It is, yes.
Instructional video? Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's still out there, but if you're listening and you're a drummer, go find that. It's a great DVD. I think it's probably on YouTube at this point. One of a, not really recent, because he's kind of a prodigy, but I love Tony Royster Jr.
Yeah, there you go.
Touring guy for Jay-Z back in the day. That guy, again, same thing. I know what you're doing.
Yep.
But I can't do it. And just an absolutely phenomenal drummer.
Yeah, he puts a lot of videos out too.
Unbelievable.
Maybe something a little different. Buddy Rich, the great Buddy Rich, of course. I mean, if you think of, the golden age of big band jazz music, I mean, Buddy Rich was the man.
Buddy Rich is good. He was definitely he was a character.
Yep.
Right. But he knew what he was doing. And yeah, they had some great music.
Definitely a household name for drummers.
Mm-hmm.
No one said Lars Ulrich.
There's a good reason why.
Yeah.
If you would have asked, teenager me, of course, Lars Ulrich was the best thing ever, drummer of Metallica.
Yeah.
Still have respect for him, not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from who he is and what he says and whatever, I still like his drum style. As metal, I think I like the kind of the stuff that he plays. Not going to lie.
Yeah. I say the same. Everything but Saint Anger, I'm good with.
There you go.
I'd actually say the same thing about, and maybe this is one of my influences growing up. Well, it was one of my influences growing up. Travis Barker.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
big time for me.
Yeah. He had some chops and
he's got some speed for sure.
Oh
yeah. I would have to agree with you, Eric. Travis Barker, maybe, growing up in high school, we may have covered Blink-182 more than any other band.
He's still good. He did I remember reading a story about him one time where he messed up his arm and it was in a cast. And so he just like learned to play drums with like one arm, but he was doing all of the other stuff with his feet. And I was just like, man, that's incredible. How are you doing that?
Well, you could always think of Def Leppard and the great Rick Allen. And the story of Rick Allen, as a lot of drummers know, the one-arm drummer. Much respect for that guy. And I love that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to see. There is a guy that's on Instagram that does the same thing. He literally takes challenges from people to see if he can play songs one-handed. And I can't find the name of him. But yeah, he's a guy that he literally plays. There was a video of him brushing his teeth while he was playing, I believe, Aerials from System of a Down with one hand. And he does all the fills with his double bass. It was pretty cool.
I actually came across that video.
Yeah.
It like popped up in my timeline on YouTube, and I was watching that guy. Yeah. What a big show off.
Yep.
Pretty cool,
and
though.
I know he had a video because people are saying that he speeds up the videos so it makes it look like he's playing it correctly. But he was like holding up a timer on one video, looking at it and it was showing the time with it while he was playing with one hand.
Okay, guys, grab your sticks.
What do you got, Chris? You got Vic Firth? What do you got, Gio? I got Vader.
Yeah, so I also have Vader. It's the Manhattan. Pretty thin, the 7As. Chris has some big old tree trunks there.
Yes, sir.
Vic Firth. Oh, you got the American Classic 5As? Is that 5As?
Yeah,
5As.
5As. Yeah, 5As are little. I don't like big sticks.
What is it, like the 2Bs? They look a lot thicker on the camera.
Yeah, like those. I don't know how people play with those tree trunks. Unless you're playing slow things, jazz, whatever. I don't know if you're playing metal, I don't know how you can be fast with those.
Okay, well, thanks for listening to this episode of Inside Amusements. Visit us at InsideAmusements.com. Follow us on social media. Like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. And we'll see you in the next one.